Hi, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and this is Equal Entertainment. Daytime TV has lost a legend. Former Cincinnati mayor and talk show host Jerry Springer has died. Jerry Springer's show became synonymous with outrageous fights and thrown chairs. He was dubbed the grandfather of trash TV. The Jerry Springer Show ended in 2018 after more than 4,000 episodes. Jerry Springer was 79. A Grammy Award-winning artist and former member of the Fugees was found guilty in a scheme to help China influence the U.S. government. Prosecutors say Pras Michel tried to help Malaysian businessmen gain access to U.S. officials, including former presidents Barack Obama and Donald Trump. He faces up to 20 years in prison when sentenced. The new trailer for Queer Eye Season 7 is out. Grab your beads and let the good times roll as the Fab Five bring sparkle and sass to New Orleans and transform the lives of residents who are in need of a fresh start. The new season begins streaming on May 12th. Netflix is also releasing the new trailer for Hannah Gadsby's Something Special. It's the comedian's third Netflix comedy special. This time, we get to hear about Gadsby's wedding and a traumatic encounter with a bunny. Something Special premieres globally on May 9. Former President Barack Obama has a new Netflix docuseries coming out. It's called Working: What We Do All Day. In the four-part series, Obama talks to everyday workers across a range of industries. According to Netflix, it explores the ways in which we find meaning in our work and how our experiences and struggles connect us. And get ready to enter the silo. The new Apple TV Plus series is based on Hugh Howey's New York Times bestselling trilogy. Silo is the story of the last 10,000 people on Earth living a mile below the surface to protect them from the toxic, deadly world outside. Or so they think. No one knows why or when the silo was built.
Silo is a show that's really kind of a murder mystery in its own sense, but it takes place hundreds of years from now, and it's a real good examination on human life and who we are as human beings, because in the silo we've been stripped of history, so people don't know what happened in the past. So it's no racism, it's no sexism, but it is classism, and what you're dealing with in the silo is all the things that you've been told you have to live by. And there's some people, just like people on the planet Earth, that question what the powers that be say is true. But within that, it's this murder mystery that goes on in our first season. And it's a really great show. I'm grateful to be here.
I think for me, good sci-fi always kind of makes you wonder about the world that we're living in right now. And so the way that truth is handled in this society, I thought was really interesting. And then, I found Lucas a really charming and sort of kind and open-hearted character, which maybe I'm not all those things, so I wanted to give him a shot. It's a real gift as an actor, because you know that you get to tell the best story with sort of the best people, and everybody's going to really do an amazing job. And, Common is a legend, and Tim and Rebecca, and, Shanaz is going to be a legend. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
I mean, the set is one of the greatest artistic achievements I've ever seen in my life. As an actor, it's a complete gift. It does so much work for you. You can really just breathe in this space. I mean, I'm not sure if I'll work on something as beautiful as that ever again in my life, so I'm just trying to take it in and enjoy it.
And get ready for Season 3 of the critically acclaimed HBO Max original comedy series, The Other Two. In this season, Brooke and Carrie are finally standing on their own 2 feet, and after years of comparing themselves to their pop star brother and talk show host mom, they are again comparing themselves, but this time to new people. I recently spoke with Brandon Scott Jones about how the series is so good at diving into nuances of gay life. Just kind of checking in on where Curtis is. He seems to be having a little bit of success in his life. So yeah, I wonder if you would talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think last season, Curtis kind of always, he's always been there for Carrie. And last season we kind of said like, hey, I'm going to be that, shoulder for you to lean on if you need, but just also read the room, because he wasn't anywhere close to where Carrie was. And then at the end of last season, also Carrie gave him the job of hosting all of those little shows that he got to do. And I think Curtis is like thriving and so happy in that world right now. But I still think that, he's looking for more, but he's, doing his thing, and he's in the past 3 years, like he's missed his friend a little bit because his friend's been out of the country working for a while. And so he's happy to be back with Carrie.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for that. And I love that the series takes on, I've been asking everyone kind of like, the series has queer characters. It does not make a meal out of it. It's just who they are. And we're kind of at this juncture where you think that is not a big deal, except that not everyone can have that level of being out and open. So it's still so important to see. And would you talk about what that means to you to be playing Curtis and to be a part of this project that is so inclusive?
Yeah, I'll tell you the thing that that means the most to me is that I think a lot of times the television show, when there's more than one queer character, the instinct would be to get them together romantically, as if, that's the only way we can really fully explore their identities. And I think this show has, done a really great job of avoiding that, but also at the same time seeing what queer friendship can be and how important it is, and how what a survival mechanism is for so many people, specifically in this business. So like in the world of the show, to have an ally like that understands everything that you're going through is really, really cool. And I've really, really enjoyed getting to see that, some of the best relationships in my life are with my queer friends. And I think just because we're not romantically involved doesn't mean there isn't a complexity. And I think that there's a lovely complexity between the two, and getting to show that has been really awesome.
Yeah, incredible. And also, I think the show does a great job of kind of touching on nuances, especially among gay men. And I mean, this whole thing with Curtis and the grinder dates is kind of really
Yeah.
And so I think that's very funny. But then there's also the scene with Carrie where Carrie says something a little kind of not very nice to Curtis about why he may or may not have gotten a role, and it kind of shows a little. I'm not saying that Carrie is, but it shines a light a little bit on the idea of femmephobia in the gay male space. And would you talk about those nuances and how those are written into the show?
Yeah, I think when you talk about that femmephobia, it's almost also like sometimes when there's a character that one might be auditioning for as a gay person, it's almost like they want you to push the stereotype a little bit in order to get it. And I think, Curtis is emotionally intelligent enough to know that maybe Carrie has struggled with his own sexuality more than Curtis did in a lot of ways, or at least within the realms of this business. And so I think he's using that as like a way to comfort him. But at the same time, it kind of, when it gets thrown back in his face, it's that feeling of like, well, no, I'm more than just my sexuality, and I'm more than just my identity. It's not about just the fact that I'm gay or that I present a certain way that people recognize to be gay, but that there is a talent there, and that the idea that one person would get a job just because they present that way more than one other person, there's the nuance of it is that, yes, sometimes that's true. And as Curtis says, it's deeply problematic for the world. But at the same time, when Carrie sort of just devalues Curtis's actual contribution to possibly why he got the part, I think that's also really tough. And I think, every actor, queer actor, I'm sure has felt like, am I gay enough? Am I not gay enough? Am I too gay? Am I too much, too not enough? And so I think this show really strikes a nice balance with understanding that, we just want to see more queer, complicated characters, and that not everything fits into one mold.
That's it for this edition of Equal Entertainment. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and join the conversation on Facebook.